going on here? All right, let's see why am I not getting it on here? All right. Okay. How's everybody doing? Meteorologist Chris Sowers here. This is another weather update. Here it is 4:12 in the afternoon, Sunday, June 14th. We are watching. We're watching for the possibility of some heavy weather later this afternoon. Now we have a couple of severe thunderstorm watches up out to the west, not even remotely close to our viewing area. Good possibility that they're going to end up issuing a severe thunderstorm watch in that area. All right, now we've got a couple of showers and some heavy downpours. If you look above Harrisburg there, or towards the left-hand, upper left, you see the yellows and the oranges and the reds starting to pop there. Those showers and thunderstorms actually, I mean, they're not really, the modeling really wasn't Okay, there we go. All right, so I just want to go back and show you what was issued by the Storm Prediction Center. Now, this was issued earlier today, all right, right around, I'm going to say, right around 10 o'clock. That's when this got issued. And it is a level 2 out of 5, okay, level 2 out of 5 for severe weather. All right, and what this means is there's a strong possibility that we're going to end up seeing scattered heavy thunderstorms in this area. Okay, notice it's a large area. It's a large chunk of real estate. It's pretty much the entire mid-Atlantic, goes all the way up to upstate New York, western portions of Connecticut and Massachusetts, all of Vermont, and a pretty good piece of New Hampshire, which is rare. It's rare that you start getting these level 2s and level 3s, all of this stuff so far to the north. All right, because usually the farther north you go into the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, the air starts to stabilize a little bit, and don't really you worry about thunderstorms, but you don't worry about severe weather. But that's exactly what we are seeing potentially up there to the north. Okay, want to quickly go back. Again, I got to find my controls here. Bear with me 1 second. Oh, there we go. Okay. So when we flip it over to the hail threat, all right, notice this hasn't changed. The tornado threat hasn't changed. The wind threat hasn't changed. So I think what the Storm Prediction Center is doing here is they're just kind of maintaining what they had earlier, all right, and they're going to watch the radar closely out there towards Pittsburgh. You got a nice squall line developing, and they're just going to wait and see, how everything evolves over the next couple of hours. And I guess then they'll go from there. All right, but this is what has me perhaps most concerned out of everything is the threat for tornadoes. Now, it's low. Okay, anytime that you see green when it comes to tornadoes, that's a low threat. But it's still a threat nonetheless. Okay, and tornadoes can cause some damage, obviously, as we all know. A lot of times in this part of the country, you don't get the big ones out there. It's rare, but it happens. But a lot of times in this part of the country, you don't get the big ones like they do out there towards tornado. It's not overly impressive, but it could be impressive enough to get an EF1 out of this. So, I don't want to frighten anybody, but it is something that we're going to have to watch. And as we go back over the straight line wind, this I think is going to be the primary threat here. All right, straight line winds potentially from, let's say let's call it the Catskills. All right, all the way down through Philadelphia, down into Baltimore, D.C., and Richmond, the I-95 corridor. As we go over to the forecast guidance here, now this is the rapid refresh. All right, this is a high-resolution model. Talked about this earlier. This tends to overdo thunderstorms from time to time. It's in its infant stages. It's a very new forecast model. Okay, so because of that, we only have, so much time that we can look back and say, okay, it's handled this situation well, it's handled that situation well, doesn't do good with this, doesn't do good with that, it does great with this, does great with that. We haven't had enough time with this particular model yet. But one thing that I have noticed over the last, let's say, 6 months is when it comes to convective activity, all right, when it comes to these big thunderstorms, it tends to overdo it a little bit. So here is 4 o'clock. This is current. Now, remember, we do have some activity north and west of Reading right now, okay, and north and west of Allentown, in that line that I just, matter of fact, let me go back. All right, there it is. It's out towards Hazleton, okay, but yet the model is showing that. So it's not really handling this. It shows something, but it's not handling this as well as I would like it to, okay? So let's go back over to the radar. And again, you can see the activity out there north of Harrisburg, pulling away from State College. It's well south of Williamsport. Notice to the north around Elmira and Ithaca, those are severe thunderstorm. Actually, that is a watch. That's one of the severe thunderstorm watches that was issued. The line goes way back out here to the west. It's going to take some time for it to get here, but wow. All right, that just shows you, all right, what we're potentially looking at here, all right, because there's a lot of counties that are involved in that. But let's set this in motion for you. This is 4 o'clock. There's 5. There's 6. There's 7. Again, I think the front end of this model, it's not doing a great job here, okay? There's 7. Excuse me, that is 8 p.m. now. We're at 8 p.m. 9. 10. Look at that line there from Reading southwestward. It's right around. It goes all the way southwest towards Frederick in the Baltimore television market, Hagerstown. There's some big thunderstorms. There's 11. Now, what I want to show you here is watch what happens, okay? So this is 11. There's midnight. All right, so we got a lot of red here. See that? An hour later, not so much. All right, there's some big thunderstorms out there by Wrightstown and Mount Holly, northwest Burlington County, let's say lower Bucks County towards Levittown and Bensalem, northeast up to Trenton. Probably a good downpour remaining around Doylestown, but look what this looked like an hour prior. Okay? And then it looks like that at midnight. So I think we're going to see a very similar situation here where the storms could be a little beefy out to the west, but then once they get closer to the coast, they should dramatically weaken. Okay? Or at least that's the idea up to this point. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. That's 3, 4, 5. Okay? Here's a look at, excuse me. Here's a look at the HRRR. This is another very high-resolution forecast model. This one has a proven track record. Okay? This one's been around for a while, and it does fabulous with convection. Okay? Well, it does fabulous with certain aspects of convection. Like there's going to be times where, for example, I'm going to have to go back to my notes. I believe pulse thunderstorms, for example, it doesn't do well with. But like linear segments and Boeing segments, it does do well with. So I'm going to have to review, before we do some storm coverage here over the next couple of hours. But I'm pretty sure what I said is correct with the HRRR. All right, so you can see we're quiet. I mean, look at that. That's 8 p.m. Not much going on. There's 9. There's 10. All right. So it is. Let me refresh this real quick because it's actually in the middle of updating. Let's go back. So this is 3. There's 4. There's 5. There's 6. There's 7. There's 8. This model shows absolutely nothing through 8 p.m. for the Philadelphia area. Nothing. 9. Now we're starting to get some thunderstorms out to the west. There's 10. Now what I want to draw your attention to here is look towards the top of your screen. All right, locate MPO. See that? And then go lower left from it, or southwest. You see how it almost looks like what would that be, a kidney bean, I guess, where it almost appears as if it has a bowing segment? That's the kind of stuff that we're going to be on guard for tonight, okay? Because you get the big winds at the apex of that bow. And sometimes you can get 70-mile-an-hour winds like that. So notice it's a small, because it's the apex, right? It's not the whole thing. It's a small part of the cell. But look, at this point, everybody is fair game, all right? We're all in the same environment. We're all in that level 2 from the Storm Prediction Center. We're all in a heightened risk for strong damaging winds, and we're all in a tornado threat, all right? So it's the same atmosphere. It's the same environment for just about everybody until you work your way closest to the coast, and then the atmosphere stabilizes a little bit. So who knows whether or not this is going to, it remains to be seen whether or not this plays out exactly as the model says. But the bowing segments, that's the kind of thing that we're going to have to watch for later this evening, okay? The really strong straight line winds. All right? So let's see, 8, 9, 10. That's 11 o'clock at night. Big, big thunderstorms according to this model right over Gloucester and Camden counties. All right, look at that. Glassboro, Pittman, Williamstown, Franklinville, Sewell, Washington Township, all Belmar, all getting pounded. Pine Hill, Blackwood, Clementon. I mean, according to this model, every one of those towns that I just mentioned, big, big thunderstorms. Northward up into Philadelphia at the airport. Philly Northeast getting some good downpours. Doylestown getting a good downpour. Allentown, up the Northeast Extension. Allentown, Quakertown getting hit good. Pottstown drenching downpours. Wilmington drenching downpours. Dover, heavy thunderstorms there. But notice what happens if you draw a straight line from, I don't know, just west of, let's say, Emmaus and Macungie south, through Westchester. From that point west, we're done. All right, maybe there's something, isolated, spotty left over. But for the most part, you're done after that. Here's a look at the storm prediction. They just issued it. All right. So you see this little area right here? I don't know if you can see my cursor. All right, they've issued a new severe thunderstorm watch. And I like the placement here, okay? What this suggests to me is that they are thinking that the heaviest, because there's a line out here right now, and I can't really show it to you yet because my radar is acting funny, and if I switch the view, my fear is I'm not going to get the proper view back, and I want to do a lot of coverage tonight, so I don't want to mess it up. But if you were to look, you see those blue outlined areas here. Those are all severe thunderstorm watches, and if you were to go from Buffalo southwestward through Cleveland and Erie and out towards Columbus, there's a squall line out there. Big, big thunderstorms. They're all warned. Severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings. That whole line is going to be pushing east. But what I like the SPC doing here is notice the placement of that new watch, which is over Baltimore and D.C. Okay? Notice where it's not. It's not over Philadelphia. It's not over any of the surrounding suburbs. Okay, let me click this real quick. There it is right there. It is over Cecil County, which is close, but it ends right there on the PA, Maryland state line, and then goes south through D.C. and Richmond and Roanoke. Let's see, Baltimore's in this. Frederick is in this. Out westward through Elkins in West Virginia. Okay, they're in this. Okay, so you see we do have some weather. And there's the watch right there. So it's going to be interesting. Basically what has happened here is the Buffalo office has issued a watch. That watch was probably issued by the Baltimore D.C. offices there. I think it's the Baltimore office, right? And it looks like State College and Mount Holly were on standby. We're waiting to see what those two National Weather Service offices do. Okay? All right, so that's really it. Hi, Shar. That's my brother's wife. I'm still staying at the Hotel Gary Sowers Hilton. I'm about to go over to the Hotel Dan Flamma Hilton, and that's where we're going to do our storm coverage because I want to see my wife and I want to see my Paigey. So I'm about to go over there probably in about an hour and a half. And how we're going to attack this is once the weather starts, I mean, I'll keep doing these little updates, but once the weather starts getting going, then I'm just going to run live. We're just going to keep going, okay? And there's going to be a lot of things I'll show you. If the weather gets quiet, I'll start looking at some long-range stuff with you guys. There's some cooler temperatures. There is a cooling trend, and I'm going to set all that up. We'll look at some seasonal stuff too. If we catch a low on the action, seasonal stuff meaning, what do the seasonal models show for June, July, August as a whole, the summer season. We can take a look at El Nino. I've got the chat hooked up there, and so I can see some of your questions. If we catch ourselves in a lull and we quiet down, maybe I can just do a quick Q&A here that lasts maybe 10 minutes or so until things start firing up again. Maybe we can just, whatever weather stuff is on your mind, ask me and I'll get to it. But, there's a lot we can do. There's a lot with this right here. right here. There's a lot that I can do with the radar. Matter of fact, let's go over to observations real quick, and then I'll put the. All right, that's the model. Let's pause it. Ooh, it's warm. It is really warm, and I know the humidity has come up. I mean, I just had my feet in the pool here, and I know the humidity has come up. But I have to tell you, the clouds, there's a nice canopy of clouds right now, which leads me to believe that we have, some stable air out there right now over South Jersey, which would be good because those models are still very, very bullish on big thunderstorms. But, it was supposed to be hotter. We were supposed to be around 93 today. Now, I haven't looked at the official high, but, we're in the peak heating of the day right now. 2, 3, 4. We're only at 89. So, those clouds likely helped us out a little bit here. Let's see. Let's look at the dew points, okay? There's a look at the dew points. All right, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not 59 in Violent. So obviously that's not, if you look towards Violent, it's not 59. Because I'm not too far from Violent and it feels awful outside, okay? Let me go back one real quick. Okay, there it is, right there. That's more like it, I think. That was the 2 o'clock observation. 65 for Philadelphia, 65 in Allentown. Dew points are up there again. So, we've got a little bit of moisture in the air, which, remember what we talk about. Humidity leads to instability. High dew points leads to instability. The higher these numbers get in front of you here, the higher the instability generally becomes. All right, generally gets. All right, so, we didn't have this yesterday. Yesterday it was a warm day. We had highs around 90, but we had zero humidity. All right, it was completely, the atmosphere, bone dry. It was really, really comfortable. Okay, and that's why, and I'm getting off topic here, but again, this is why I hate the definition of a heat wave with this whole 3 days in a row of 90 degrees or higher. Listen, yesterday, I got to check. I don't know if we did hit 90. It was awful close, but even if we did, I would take that all summer. Yesterday was an incredibly comfortable day. We had no humidity at all, none. I mean, it was a fabulous day. There's no way if we had 3 days in a row of that, it would be silly and stupid to call that a heat wave. Just going to throw that out there. And I hope the Weather Service hears this and they just kind of maybe think about potentially looking at their definition for a heat wave with all this technology that we have now and maybe upgrading the definition a little bit. I mean, we've upgraded everything else, but that's one definition that we have not touched in like 50 years or whatever it is. And I really think it needs to be upgraded. It needs updated is probably the proper terminology because it's just, like I said, it's just silly. My opinion with heat waves should probably take into account heat index too, because like I said, you could give me 10 days in a row of 90 degrees, and if you have dew points in the 40s and 50s, I'll take that all summer long. There's no threat there. There's no danger there. You could be outside all day in that. There's no health hazards with that. So why call it a heat wave? You know what I mean? All right, there's a look at the wind. Is it breezy out there? Yeah, the flag's moving a little bit. You do have some. Let's go over the satellite. Look at the clouds there. It's interesting. That is interesting. Like I said, I'm wondering because this is a lot of high. I see a lot of high thin. Hold on. Yeah, we've got a high thin cirrus deck and a cumulus deck up there now. I'm wondering if the atmosphere is a little more stable than what the models are seeing. let's go over to. All right, now what I'm doing here is, bear with me, okay? What I'm doing here is, this is all pretty new. So I'm going to try and set this in motion, and let's see what it shows. Oh, interesting. What model is this? There's 5, there's 6. I got to figure out what model we're using here, but 7, 8, 9, 10. If I could only figure out what model this is. NSSL HT. All right. Again, these are, yeah, see that? Look at 11 o'clock. Those are big thunderstorms here. There's midnight. Look at how everything completely vanishes as it approaches the coast. You know, my cousin Brian Herker just asked me, he said, you know, because he knows that there's a chance of severe weather, and he knows that there's a small tornado threat today. And he asked me, you know, they're down the shore, do I have to come back up? And you know, I told him I think you're fine, because by the time they get into New Jersey, they are going to be in a weakened state versus what will happen west of the Delaware River, okay? So, you know, I would expect the storms to be strongest across the southeastern Pennsylvania suburbs and then gradually start to weaken as they approach the coast. And then look at this. By the time they get to the coast, they're gone. Maybe you get a little bit of light rain or some showers. That's it. They are gone. All right, there's a look at the current radar. Okay, so we're quiet right now. That's a quick update. Everything looks to be on track. Right now I'm going to watch and see what the National Weather Service in Mount Holly and the National Weather Service in State College do as far as issuing severe thunderstorm watches. But right now, I don't even see a mesoscale discussion that was issued by the Storm Prediction Center. So I think right now all is good, you know, nice and quiet, and we'll just have to watch the next couple of hours. So get out there, and if you already haven't done so, you got plenty more pool time left. What is it, 4? It's 4:30. You've got hours and hours worth of pool time left. Okay, hours. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. So, all right. Looks like we got somebody on the controls here. Okay. All right. I'm assuming. Okay, so that was going to do it for me. Now, you're going to have to bear with me. Again, I'm still learning this whole streaming thing. It's just a lot. Okay, so this is all new to me. You know how to stream and how to turn all the streams on. And oh, see that? My buddy Landon down there in Tennessee, he just told me that. See this? Like I said, I'm on the controls here. He just said when I showed the satellite and everything, he said I didn't have it on. He said I had the thing on my face, and so apparently I wasn't able to show you guys anything. See what I mean? This is the stuff that I'm learning. I got to learn all the controls. All right, let's do this again real quick then, because now I think I could. Hi, sir. So I think I've got everything situated now. So here's a look. Jeez, I'm gonna have to remember to do that. Okay, you know what I'm gonna have to do? I've got notes here. I'm gonna have to write more notes down so I remember. Just have it in front of me. All right, here's a look at the satellite we were talking about earlier. Hi, Brycey. We were talking about the cloud deck out there. The Cumulus and Cirrus right now leads me to believe that the atmosphere. Oh, there it is. I'm looking at this now on my Sowers Skywatch platform. Yes, that looks a lot better. Leads me to believe that the atmosphere, at least over southern New Jersey, might be a little bit more stable than what the modeling is picking up on. We'll see. All right, we'll see. Actually, I want to go back over. Let's go back over to the wind. First, the temperature. I don't know. Forgive me. I don't know if you guys saw this already. I know I was talking about it, but I don't know whether or not I flipped the camera over so that you guys even saw this. So let me just go through this real quick. Temperatures are in the upper 80s, okay? It is muggy. There's a look at the dew points. Again, ignore that number you see in Vineland. They are well in the 60s right now. Everybody's mid-60s. Where you see that shade of green, all right, that's where we have dew points that have dropped down to, yes, that are a little bit lower. Okay, so when you start getting, I don't know if that's a bluish color. All right, when you start getting the blues and the purples, that's where we have some really juicy air. Okay, so there's a look at the dew points. Remember, we talked about this. Humidity leads to instability. The more of an increase that you see in that dew point, the greater the chances are of drenching downpours at the very least and heavier thunderstorms. Okay, here's a look at the wind. All right, right now it's a little breezy out of the south. If you're by the way, if you're down the shore, wow. I mean, I'm sure you've clouded up a little bit now, but wow, what a day. You got a tremendous sea breeze right now. And let's go back to the temperatures. Look. Look at it. Shar, look at this real quick. We should be on the boardwalk in Atlantic City. This is my brother's wife, Shar. Say hi, Shar.
Hi.
It's 89 in Vineland. Look at Atlantic City.
Oh, wow. You were just there last night.
I know you. Where did you guys go?
Ocean Casino.
Ocean Resorts Casino, right?
Yes.
What, just slots, or did you go out to eat? Where'd you?
Slots, and we ate at Ocean Steakhouse.
They ate at Ocean Steakhouse. Is that a,
It's good.
who's the cook there? Is that, what's his name? That famous chef? There's a famous
No,
chef in there.
I don't think so.
No?
Gary might know.
I haven't been there in a long time. That's one place that that I would like to go. My mom says, so are you doing live storm coverage? What time does that start? Yes, Mother, I'm doing that now. Let me just text my mom. Just say I'm doing that now. That's my mother. Okay, so wind, dew point, temperatures. Let's go back over to the radar. Again, right now, really nothing to worry about here. You got a couple of showers. Skies may be getting a little dark just northwest of Lancaster, but it's just a little light rain. It's nothing else. Same thing if you're in Allentown and Reading, you look off to the northwest, skies are getting a little dark. Okay, let's go back over to the model. All right, let me see what models we have here. Let's go to, interesting. All right, let's go over to this one. All right, so we're at 4 p.m. All right, that's 11 p.m. All right, now this is a different model run here, but you know, basically what I'm seeing here is every model, you know, they're placing the worst weather, you know, in different parts of the Philadelphia television market, but they all of them have pretty heavy weather at one point this evening. Okay, at some point. It's just a question of where we're going to put these heavy storms, because every model kind of places things differently. But again, what I would say is anytime after 7 p.m., it's 4:40 now, anytime after 7 p.m., heads up. Keep an eye to the sky, stay weather aware, make sure that you're watching SowersSkywatch.com, or go over to the page, because I'm going to have video updates and everything there for you. So, go over to the outlooks real quick. Okay, this is categorical. You can see the level 2, all right, that's up for everybody, all right, everybody from Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, down through the Lehigh Valley, the Poconos, down into Philadelphia, down into central and southern Delaware, Jersey Shore, Delaware Beaches, the Delmarva. Everybody's included in this, all right. This right here is what has me concerned, okay. This is your tornado threat. Now it is low, okay. That shade of green represents low, but it's still a threat nonetheless, okay. So you can see the line as you get closer to the Jersey Shore. Notice how we don't have the green in Toms River and Atlantic City and Smithville. And honestly, let's say if you're in Hamilton and you go up 206 up to Trenton, from 206 east, you're not in a tornado threat. From 206 west, you are. Okay? Again, it's a low threat, but a threat nonetheless. There's a look at the wind threat. Everybody, very, very high threat at this point. Strong straight line winds. Again, my concern is going to be for those Boeing segments that we saw on the model earlier if you were tuned in. Some of those cells kind of look like kidney beans with the apex really, really kind of stretching outward, which would indicate 65, maybe 70 mile an hour straight line winds. Again, pushing that part of the squall line well in advance of the two, you know, think of an archer, okay? And you got the bow, all right, top and bottom, all right? All right, so your strongest winds are right there at the apex, weaker stuff on both ends. both ends, okay? That's why they call it a bow, all right? That's what you look for. There's a look at the hail threat right there. Okay, hail threat is also low, but it follows, it mirrors what the tornado threat does, at least in our neck of the woods. See that? All right, it's pretty darn close. So again, the main threat here is going to be strong straight line winds. I don't know what this button is here. I just hit mapping. We'll see. Let's go back over. Okay, back over to the radar. Okay. All right, I think we're good for now. Let's, I want some dinner. All right. Bear with me, because I got to ask my buddy down there in Tennessee how I turn the stream off. All right, so he's going to help me out. Now, when we go live tonight, don't worry. I'm going to have multiple hands on deck with me, not just me. So they're going to be able to do all of this. Ideally, what I like to do, you guys have seen me do storm coverage before. I've been through hurricanes, I've been through blizzards, I've been through tornadoes and thunderstorms. Ultimately, the way I like to handle severe weather, I'm the kind of guy who just put me in front of a green wall, put me in front of a camera, let me talk. All right, let me motion through what I'm going to motion through. Let me get animated. Let me show what I'm going to show. I like to have somebody else on the controls. For example, let's say I've got Rob Garino with me, which I might have later today. Let's say I've got him with me. I would say, I'd be the one talking, and I'd say, hey, Rob, do me a favor, zoom into the Lehigh Valley. And he would be on the controls. I'm more comfortable in that regard. I don't like to, when I'm the one talking and I'm the one on the controls, my mind goes into a million different places. And sometimes, it's not that I lose focus, but sometimes I'm just trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, I'm trying to talk. And the information doesn't come out the way that I want, or in the order that I want. And sometimes I may forget to say something or two, so that's how I like to do storm coverage. So we're going to have multiple hands on deck here tonight if things get, a little crazy, which I'm hoping they won't. Okay, now, just bear with me. Let me see if I remember how to toggle all this stuff off, okay? Remember, I will see you guys, I'll see you guys later this evening. All right, let's say probably again around 7, okay? All right, here we go. Until then, I'll see you